So, it's interesting how most of the man-made holidays has an extreme story of a Catholic saint. All right. Christmas has Saint Nicholas. And of course, St. Patrick's Day has St. Patrick. And so since we're here, I might as well kill two birds with one stone. We're going to deal with Valentine's Day, and I'm going to give you proper clarity with St. Patrick's Day. So let's deal with facts, myths, and traditions of St. Patrick. This is coming from the National Geographic St. Patrick's Day 2004 Facts, Myths, and Traditions. All right. Under the section titled No Snakes in Ireland, we're going to highlight that. It says, another St. Patrick myth is the claim that he banished snakes from Ireland. It's true, no snakes exist on the island today. Luther College's Freeman said, but they never did. Ireland, after all, is surrounded by icy waters, much too cold to allow snakes to migrate from Britain or anywhere else. So I want to reiterate the point that it made in this first bullet that I highlighted. It says no snakes existed on the island today, and Luther College's Freeman said, but they never did. Now pay attention to that. Make a note of that. Let's go back to this article. It goes on to say, since snakes often represents evil in literature, when Patrick drives the snakes out of Ireland, it is symbolically saying he drove the old evil pagan ways out of Ireland and brought in a new age, Freeman said. And so the snake myth, the shamrock story, and other tales, in other words, what they're saying is likely fabricated. Okay, so let's highlight another key point it made. It said it is symbolically saying he drove the old evil pagan ways out of Ireland and brought in a new age. So the question is, if St. Patrick did not drive out snakes, what and who did he drive out? So let's highlight another key reference. Okay, Journal of the Royal Institution of Cornwall, Footprints of Vanishing Race in Cornwall. This is page 280 and 281. So I'm going to just read a couple of bullets that I highlighted from this literature. Okay, so just make a note. Again, it's coming out of the Journal of the Royal Institution of Cornwall, volume 15. Okay, page 280 and 281. I believe that the first human beings who entered Cornwall in the Neolithic period belonged to a race of dwarfs or pygmies and were veritable little people. The study of dwarf races is a new branch of anthropology. It goes on to say this. These stories were for long thought to be childish inventions, but in recent discoveries have proved that they were perfectly correct. When the Dutch occupied South Africa, they met with the dwarf Bushmen, who are the smallest pygmies in the world. And so the Spaniards also became, or should I say had become, acquainted with the, all right, goes on to say, Mr. R.G. Halliburton has traced these pygmy races into Morocco and Spain. Long ago, Jacob Grimm concluded from the traditions of elves, gnomes, and trolls currently in Germany that dwarf races inhabited Central Europe in prehistoric times, and Professor Nielsen has come to the same conclusion concerning Scandinavia. So let's make a note here. All right. The dwarf races inhabited Central Europe in prehistoric times. All right. Referring to who? The pygmies. Okay. A group of melanated people. All right. Let's go back to this article here. All right. It says, I would apply these conclusions to Cornwall. We have our legends of piskies, fairies, and little people. All these stories are now understood in Europe to refer as, or should I say, refer to a real race of prehistoric dwarfs. So I believe that we may understand them with reference to Cornwall. I believe then that our piskies and fairies were genuine Cornish dwarfs belonging to a real race of diminutive human beings. All right, what it's saying here is that these fairy tales, these fables, right, they're not just made up. They originated from actual people. Okay, even though they are extreme in terms of the fairy tales, but they stem from real people. Our piskies and fairies were genuine Cornish dwarfs belonging to a real race. All right. A few more quotes from this article. It says, has shown that the plots houses of Scotland and fairy legends of the North may be traced to a race of prehistoric dwarfs. That able Celtic scholar Professor Rice has lately, in a valuable work, set forth the view that a dwarf race inhabited Britain previous to the Celtic invasion, and these views have met with general acceptance. As to the fairies, they had similar origin. They were not the dethroned gods of the heathen Celtics, nor were they the spirit of unbaptized children or druids who had rejected Christianity, but they were originally dwarfs and pygmies similar to the piskies. This will also explain the tradition existing among the French peasantry that fairies were mortal, and the story that long ago they were actually killed in Wales. Cornwall then was in the early days of the Neolithic, or should I say Neolithic Age, inhabited by a race of pygmies like the Bushmen of South Africa, and whom for convenience I shall call the Pisky dwarfs. All right, so they're telling you here, these dwarfs, or should I say these gnomes, these fairies, they are real people, right? They are real people. Okay, they are pygmies that are from Africa. These are melanated people. As to the fairies, they had similar origin. The etymology dictionary of leprechaun. Let's deal with leprechaun real quick. We'll tie this all in. Leprechaun, a very small body, little, small, not heavy, having little weight. Okay, so another point of reference I want to use is Celtic myth and legend. This is coming from page 20. In physique, it was short, swarthy, in other words, the skin complexion dark, dark-haired, dark-eyed, and long-skulled. Its language belonged to the class called Hamitic, the surviving types of which are found among the Galas, the Abyssinians, Berbers, and other North African tribes. And it seems to have come originally from some part either of Eastern, Northern, or Central Africa. Spreading thence, it was probably the first people to inhabit the valley of the Nile, and it sent offshoots into Syria and Asia Minor. The people that St. Patrick actually drove out was the Twas. That is the people. That is the people. That is the people that St. Patrick drove out. And here's the image of the Twas. This gives you an understanding. This gives you an image of who they are in their physical appearance. So St. Patrick never drove out snakes. The actual story is about what we would call today is genocide. Completely murdered an entire group of people. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I hope and pray that this blesses you. And as I conclude every teaching that I give, can't go back, can't stay here, keep moving forward. Can't go back, can't stay here, keep moving forward. For the last time, cannot go back, can't stay here, keep moving forward. And that comes from Exodus chapter 14, verses 13 and 14, as Yahweh encouraged his servant Moses, Masha, to encourage the people who were regretting, who started changing their minds, who began to complain about the obstacles that was in front of them. And so Moses had to say to the people by way of Yah, he said to them, "Fear ye not, stand still. See the salvation of Yah." These Egyptians that you see today, that stronghold, that thing that you may be struggling with right now, that bout with this depression or low self-esteem or whatever things you may be dealing with, perversions, whatever it may be, doubt, whatever it may be, double-mindedness. He says, "Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yah." These Egyptians, these strongholds that you see today, they will never have power over you again. Unless you give it to it. Unless you give it power. But they will never have power over you again. Yah will fight for you, but you must hold your peace. Shalom.